The Jeep Wrangler 4xE. It's electrified. So you can boogie woogie woogie up a mountain, over creeks, or boogie woogie woogie through a desert where you get bit by a pit viper. So you boogie woogie woogie back to camp and ask your friends if they'll suck the snake venom out. When they say no, you boogie woogie woogie to the nearest hospital for a dose of anti-venom and boogie woogie woogie your way to a full recovery. The electrified Jeep Wrangler 4xE. Learn more at Jeep.com. Jeep is a registered trademark of FCA US LLC.
Help your small business thrive and stay connected with the Comcast Business Complete Connectivity Solution. It's the largest, fastest, reliable network, advanced gig speed Wi-Fi, and cyber threat protection. Get started for just $40 a month for 12 months with no annual contract when you add mobile. Plus, ask how to get up to a $750 prepaid card. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Ends 2/21/2023. Restrictions apply. Requires EcoBill and AutoPay. New 100 megabits per second internet and Comcast Business Security Edge customers only. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra. After 12 months, regular rates apply. Gig internet required for gig Wi-Fi.
Welcome to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app. We're on Red Circle, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. We're also on Spotify and the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. If you go there, make sure you hit like and subscribe. Go to 5reasonsports.com for all of your written content without a paywall. And check out the great sponsors of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. All-Star Game this weekend. You can play it on Prize Picks. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. Get your initial deposit matched up to $100. Again, Prize Picks can be downloaded from the Google Play Store, the Apple App Store, or prizepicks.com. And again, you can play all of the other sports as well. So if you want to play NHL, MMA, boxing, it's all on there. And you can play that in addition, of course, to the NBA. And golf, too, if you want to do that as well. Go to prizepicks.com. Use that code F-I-V-E. And for gambling, go to betteredge.com. That's with an O in it, betteredge.com. There, use the code 5RSN. That's the number 5RSN. You get $20 to play. This is peer-to-peer legal sports betting. Legal sports betting. They got all kinds of tournaments over there. It's not from Costa Rica or something like that. It's from Minneapolis. Okay, so you're going to get paid. Again, it's legal. No trouble with it whatsoever, and you can find the line that you want. So go to betteredge.com. Use the code 5RSN. Prizepicks.com. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. And now, tonight's episode.
Down the Biscayne. Yeah. 5 on the floor, ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing, you can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frogs. Just like Butler said, you in trouble, y'all. Kept the floor playing, got it all band. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power, have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, and Alex Toledo, plus others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to 5 on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I got Greg Sylvander. You can follow him at Greg Sylvander. You got Alex Toledo. You can follow him at Tropical Blanket. Make sure you check out Starting 9, which I did on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel this morning, where I covered some of this, but now I'm bringing in Alex and Greg to talk about it. Also, before we get to it, which is Kevin Love and Russell Westbrook, what we want to discuss tonight, I do want to mention that we did something called Playback the other night on Heat Nets. The game didn't go so well, but Playback did. We had more than 150 of you join us. And basically what we do is we just have fun calling the game. We have the stream up there, and we talk about the game, and you guys interact with us, and it's not cutting into any of our other programming. So we're going to do it again on Sunday night for the All-Star game, and start to do it in the second half of the Heat season. So check it out. It is now pinned to my Twitter page, or the 5 Reasons Sports Twitter page. All right, let's get to it. Russell Westbrook, Kevin Love. We're going to start with the Kevin Love part of this. This all stems from a report the previous night, late in the night, from Shams, reporting that Kevin Love had interest in the Miami Heat, and that the Miami Heat have interest in him. And, of course, he's working on a buyout. And so working on a buyout means he could become available to the Heat here. We know that Eric Spoelstra has long liked Kevin Love's skill set, but there's another part of this. Kevin Love went to college at UCLA with Russell Westbrook. They have a very close relationship. It's been documented. Love has always sort of defended Russ in the press, and the Heat have 2 roster spots available. And so even though Russell Westbrook reportedly meeting with the Clippers, but according to Woj, just talking to other teams as well, this brought up the possibility of using both of the roster spots on those 2 players. Let's start with the Love thing here first, Greg. What are you hearing about the Heat interest?
They're interested, and they are definitely The interesting thing about this is Jeff Schwartz, who reps Kevin Love and Russell Westbrook and Victor Oladipo and Tyler Hero and once upon a time Hassan Whiteside. You develop relationships with agents in that way, and I think that allows you to get a gauge for things. And I believe that that it's been communicated via back channels or however that takes place. I'm not privy to that process, that this would be a great fit. He would have a role. And this is the other thing. Miami has positioned themselves with the way that they skirted further away from the tax and have available exception money to spend, to where they can, if it is a money thing, they can outbid another team as well. So that's all of the factors in play. I would wonder if they would dangle a starting spot for Kevin Love. I mean, it's Kevin Love people were coming after me last year when I said Tyler Hero was the runaway sixth man of the year, and I would not accept the Kevin Love argument. And there were great basketball minds who said Kevin Love should have been the sixth man of the year last year. So maybe he's a great bench player. I think that would be the best role for him here. I'd love to see him regain form. I think that there's definitely a possibility that this could happen. Nothing is obviously final yet in terms of his buyout, so we kind of have to let that chip fall first. But it's definitely, I guess, and we're going to transition to Russell Westbrook in a bit too. And I'll just say this, like, if instead of a trade at the deadline, they end up getting Westbrook and Love for just in a hypothetical way, that to me at least shows that they're trying to do something to inject some new energy and life into this group. And so that would be a positive in my eye.
Well, it would be Dwayne Dedman, who was killing your team, and a second round pick for two guys who, one is definitely in the Hall of Fame and the other is likely in the Hall of Fame, or at least a candidate for the Hall of Fame, even though, of course, they're both towards the back end of their careers. Let's get to the basketball part with Love, and then again we'll get to Westbrook later. Alex, we talk about dangling a starting spot. He's averaged only 25 minutes a game over the past 3 years. He went through a bunch of years where he was injured. He was in his prime an elite rebounder. He became a very, very good three-point shooter. Even this year, he's at 35% from three, which is not where he's been over the past few years, but is better than the majority of the Heat. Eric Spoelstra has always coveted his skill set. I know that. I kind of painted myself in a corner with Kevin Love because I became the defend when I was covering the Big Three era, and then it transitioned obviously to the other Big Three era in Cleveland, and I covered them their first year together. I was up there a lot for Bleacher Report. I became the Chris Bosh is better than Kevin Love kind of defender. And in fact, I'm actually the one who sat down with Chris Bosh in a totally harmless little interview before we went to Rio for a preseason game between the Heat and the Cavs in 2014. And I was the one who asked Bosh about what Kevin Love was going to be facing in Cleveland. And he said essentially that it was going to be difficult playing with LeBron because, when you're playing with LeBron, it's like you're used to being at the buffet and getting everything you want. And now it's like they bring you the bread and you have to like it. And the point was that Kevin Love was going to have to, sort of adjust his game to play with LeBron in Cleveland, and that proved true. And there was the whole fit in, fit out, and all of that stuff. He's not the same player as he was then, but I've come around to it, Alex. Like I feel like when you're saying, okay, you need a guy who can shoot a three, who can rebound. He's never been a great defender, but you can kind of hide him, and positionally he might be okay. And he has a good relationship with Bam. They developed that on the national team. I feel like this is a good target.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes a lot of sense. Like you said, on starting nine, you could find flaws in every buyout player. That's why they're on the buyout market. But we know the flaws with the roster construction for this specific Heat roster. We don't have to get into it, but we know, like, a lot of the minutes are played by undrafted guys. They're missing size. They're missing shooting. It doesn't get much deeper than that. He provides both of those things. He's not going to propel your team to a different tier of team as a contender or anything like that. But he gives you a better shot against some of these teams in the Eastern Conference. Like, I understand he's not going to be somebody who is maybe closing for you, although I don't know. That could be a wild card type of move if it ends up working out, if he's not too bad defensively. But that's really like all there is to it. Like, we know that the guy can shoot the hell out of the ball, and the percentages have been there on high volume for years now. I do think, you know, his minutes have been so up and down. He's kind of been out of rotation for a month or so, maybe more. And that's kind of affected him a little bit. But I do think he could still provide around 20 minutes or so to a good team. And I think the Heat could badly use his skill set. Like, they just don't have other big players outside of Bam. And now they're undrafted two-way player Orlando Robinson, right? So they could definitely use his skill set. I think he's a 5, obviously, in the modern NBA, but you could play him next to Bam because you know he can shoot the hell out of the ball. And he can still rebound. You know, he's still a smart player as a guy who you can run potentially some dribble handoff through at the top of the post. Like, he has that skill set still. So he's not, you know, all-star Kevin Love anymore, who was leading the league in rebounds and, you know, who was putting up the big stat lines, but he's got a skill set that really makes a lot of sense for both sides. Now, if he ended up like signing with a team like the Suns or something like that, you know what I mean? Like somebody who was a better shot at winning a title, I wouldn't be that surprised, but really it seems like damn near a match made in buyout heaven.
And I think when we talk about role, they could offer a starting spot. I just don't know that it's a starting spot that comes with 30 minutes, right? Like, you could play Love 6 or 7 minutes to start the first half and to start the second half, but he wouldn't be just a placeholder like some of those starters have been. He would be a guy who starts that and then is available to close. I mean, I feel like you could carve out 20 to 22 minutes for him that way. The benefit of that is Caleb Martin goes back to doing what he should be doing. And I feel like, as we get into the Westbrook part of this, and I don't know that Westbrook is coming. There was a report from Barry today that the Heat have done their due diligence on this, and they've gotten mixed reports about Russ. Barry's an excellent reporter. Some of that felt a little bit to me like the organization kind of spinning, not going hard after him, or the fact that they don't think they're going to get him. And so, you know, kind of getting out in front of it. I don't know that that's true, but that the timing of that felt a little bit like it to me. But you could make a case that if you brought in Russ and you didn't want to have to play him with Oladipo off the bench, that you could put together a starting lineup of Russ, Tyler, which would be interesting, Jimmy, Love, and Bam. And your bench then would be Gabe, Vic, Martin, and Strus, correct? I mean, plus, I guess, Yurt maybe or Orlando Robinson is kind of your emergency big or something like that. Mm-hmm. Like, you would be putting all of your high energy undrafted guys back where they belong on the bench together.
I still think that Kevin Love would end up coming off the bench because he could play the 4 or the 5 off the bench. And so, like, just for balance, for the sake of balance, because I don't know, to your point, in a high leverage situation, can they count on Orlando Robinson and Omer Yurtseven? We're going to see, but we don't know yet. So for me, it would feel like probably Caleb would keep that starting spot for now. I think long term, to your point, they really, to find an anchor next to franchise player Bam Adebayo is priority. It's priority 1 or 2 coming up here shortly. But for now, I think you keep Caleb there, let Kevin Love come off the bench and let him basically play either spot. That's kind of the beauty of it, is that he can come in and toggle back and forth. With Westbrook, it's a little different because I would expect he would expect to want to start over a player like Gabe Vincent just by pedigree. And I could be wrong there. I could be, but like, Ethan, you think I'm out of bounds?
Well, I mean, the Clippers can offer him a starting spot. So that's what you're competing with there.
And am I wrong? And please just, and I won't interrupt you again here. I want to make sure that I didn't give bad information on off the floor. They did promise Joe Johnson a starting spot, and that was part of why he came here in that buyout situation, right?
Yes.
So there's precedent for them doing that. Okay.
Yeah. No. They will do that if they have to. They will do that if they have to. And from my recollection of the 15-16 season, it was 16 when it happened, was that Joe was promised a starting spot, and he was highly coveted by other teams. But the Heat had that spot to give because Bosh was sick. And so they were able to move Deng to the 4, and there was a natural spot there for him at the 3. I mean, it was like Gerald Green, and they had a spot to give Joe Johnson, and Dwayne pushed heavily for Joe to come because they had a relationship, and that helped too. Which is the other part of this. You guys know Kevin Love and Jimmy Butler have a history, and it's not great, right? Have you come across that, Greg, in your conversations with anybody? Because I haven't fully explored that yet, but you know that, right?
I didn't know that. Nobody has said that explicitly. That's interesting. That's not something that I was asking about, so I didn't prompt anybody maybe in the way that I should have as I'm inquiring. But no, that's not something that I've heard.
I'm gonna look it up on the fly here because I don't know that it's something they can't overcome. And again, I didn't really have the time to do the due diligence on it today. But let's see. This is I'm trying to find that there was a reference. I think what it was, and I know that. I know that Heat fans are going to be like, I should have known this right off the top. And they're probably right. It had something to do with Kevin Love mocking the whole Jimmy getting up at 3 a.m. thing.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember this?
That's right. That is what it was. I mean, nobody has brought that up as some kind of.
Oh, here we go. You ready? All right. So October, I'm going to give it to you here. And again, I don't know. I'm just going to say this off the top. I have to explore this a little bit more, but I know that Kevin Love and Bam developed a good relationship. That I know. All right, but here, let's see. Jimmy Butler clocked in. This is from an article on, this came in on Clutch Points, but it was actually pulled from Yahoo Sports, I believe, or Cleveland.com. Here we go. Jimmy Butler clocked in at 3:30 a.m. so he could work out before the Miami Heat held their first practice season. This was 2019, so this was Jimmy's debut with the Heat in practice. Cleveland Cavaliers All-Star Kevin Love, someone who thinks it was all for show. The Heat practice at 10 a.m. As we all know, though, Butler has a world-class work ethic, likes to train early morning. Come on, man. It's a long season. Love told Chris Fedor of Cleveland.com. I do think Jimmy's an amazing player, but I think there are some things that are for show. We've been putting in long hours. Us getting up at 3:30 and getting in there is not something we're going to do anything but to make us mad. So, and I just remember it being a storyline at practice one day, so that's why it sticks out to me. I don't know if this is insurmountable, but Jimmy remembers every slight. We've talked about that before.
It just means Kevin Love's going to get his ass kicked in practice. That's all.
But this is a good question, though. Actually, we should talk about this because there is a thing with buyout guys. Okay, when I've talked to people around the league about this, they've gotten paid. Like, they got bought out. Like, that's the whole thing. They negotiate buyouts with their current teams. I don't know what the buyout's going to be with Cleveland or how much of his overall contract he's going to get. But Kevin Love has made, well north of $100 million over the course of his career. There is a phenomenon here where buyout guys come and they don't want to put in the effort. I mean, to be honest with you, the Heat have kind of dealt with this with Kyle Lowry over the past couple of years, and he wasn't a buyout guy. So I just want to caution everybody with buyout players. They tend to be, towards the end of their career, they're looking for kind of maybe one last payday after this one, and maybe sort of a ride into the sunset kind of thing. And it's been a thing where he'd have picked up buyout guys, and they haven't really been ready to put in the work.
It's like 1 out of 5, Ethan, hits. You know what I mean? Like
right.
Something in that range. So Joe Johnson, and then there's been a whole bunch of them that haven't really hit. And this may be the year that one of them hits, but you can't really count on it. But that's where the Heat are in terms of how they supplement this core this season. So you got to hope one of them hits. But to your point, like, you're right. Like, if one of these guys hits, then the buyout market next year, we don't have to do any shows because we know none of them will hit law of averages.
Well, would you say, I'll go to you on this, Alex. Would you say Joe Johnson hit here?
Yeah, I mean, look, I really enjoyed the Joe Johnson experience up until that Raptors playoff series.
No, he hit. Come on. I know that was really bad at the end. Come on. He had to hit.
Yeah, that's just the thing. It had the sour ending because he couldn't make a damn 3 in the Raptors series. Like, I think if he would have made, 1 or 2, they could have maybe won. They got to game 7, but I just remember, that's what I remember. But I do remember how much I enjoyed watching him before that because his game was still smooth as hell. And he was just like a fun role player to have. I mean, he was hitting everything.
Slow as hell. Yes. I mean, smooth, slow. You characterize it either way. Did Mike Bibby hit, guys? Did Mike Bibby hit?
Man, hell no.
Did he hit a single shot that entire season? Because
no,
I hold to
not
this.
In the playoffs.
Troy Murphy didn't hit either.
They didn't pick him up though, but he
I
went
know,
to Boston.
but for Boston, I know that's what.
No, but everybody was freaked out about him going to Boston. The best, he was a buyout guy. The best in-season guy that the Heat have ever gotten was Chris Anderson, and the only reason that he was still available was because they were investigating, this very serious case against him. The Heat investigated for months. They were investigating this very serious case against him and realized there was no merit to it, and so they brought him in. Okay, he was cleared. And he was unbelievable from the very beginning. Like, I mean, the Birdman experience, gets colored a little bit by the last year, and he kind of faded a little bit. But, there's no words to put into how good he was that year. They were 37-3 in games he played in the regular season. His acquisition directly tied to the 27-game winning streak. Look it up, because this is the 10-year anniversary. We're in it right now of that winning streak. And I actually want to do an episode on that eventually. And everything that went on in that winning streak, because I covered all 27. Okay. But Birdman, they do not win 2/3 of those games without Birdman. They were struggling to rebound. They had an energy problem. I remember LeBron being in Portland. We're way off track here tonight. I apologize. But I remember LeBron being in Portland and basically trying to say through gritted teeth that we had enough, but it was obvious he didn't think they did. And then it was literally like a day later that they made the Birdman signing, and he changed everything. I don't think Heat fans should expect that from Kevin Love. I think Kevin Love is going to frustrate people defensively. Like one terrific chase down or sort of, staying with Steph Curry on the perimeter does not erase the fact that Kevin Love has been a lazy defender for a large majority of his career, and he does not now have that kind of even the quickness he had before, and he's never been a rim protector at all. So it's not like he's going to help you in that regard. He's been an elite rebounder, and he's been an elite three-point shooter, and he's a very good passer, and he's a smart player. But I do think there are some things that are going to frustrate Heat fans about him. So I just want to caution it. But with that being said, I would sign him. So after the break, I want to ask a question about him versus another player before we get to Russ. And we'll do that quickly as we go forward here. We do want to tell you about another great sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network, All Pro Construction Builders. That's our friend Danny. You can find him at 305-484-4429, 305-484-4429. Find All Pro Construction Builders on Instagram. South Florida residents, you know this, hurricane season, no matter what month it is. I know it's February. Hurricane season's still around the corner. Protect your home or business now. Don't wait until June or July or August. We haven't had a huge name storm really kill us down here for a long time. It's time to get your windows done. Make sure your home is protected, okay? Miami-Dade, Monroe counties, they service that, as well as Broward. They use locally made products, American-made. All Pro Construction Builders. Reach out to Danny. He's a huge Heat fan. Use his phone number, 305-484-4429, 305-484-4429. If you mention 5 Reasons, you'll get a 10% discount on your entire bill.
Get ready to raise a glass and turn up the volume because Drink Champs is back. Join hosts NORE and DJ EFN as they drink, laugh, and chat with some of the biggest names in hip-hop and pop culture, with some of the most legendary guests like Derek Jeter, ASAP Rocky, and Kevin Hart. Drink Champs has got it all. Tune in and join the conversation with Drink Champs on the Interval Presents Podcast Network, wherever you get your podcasts.
Help your small business thrive and stay connected with the Comcast Business Complete Connectivity Solution. It's the largest, fastest, reliable network. Advanced gig speed Wi-Fi and cyber threat protection. Get started for just $40 a month for 12 months with no annual contract when you add mobile. Plus, ask how to get up to a $750 prepaid card. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Ends 2/21/2023. Restrictions apply. Requires EcoBill and AutoPay. New 100 megabits per second internet and Comcast Business Security Edge customers only. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra. After 12 months, regular rates apply. Gig internet required for gig Wi-Fi.
Hey, Mike. Glad you could join me for some great seafood.
Me too.
Wait, why are you dressed in fishing gear?
You said we were going out to catch great seafood, right?
Yes, to Popeyes. Do you even know how to fish?
No, I thought you did.
Oh, yeah, I can catch pretty good seafood at Popeyes. Let's go.
Let Popeyes do the fishing while you enjoy our delicious signature seafood. Get Popeyes flounder fish sandwich or shrimp tackle box before they're gone. Limited time at participating U.S. restaurants.
Simple question for you here, Alex. Kevin Love or Serge Ibaka?
I knew you were going to go there, and we didn't talk about this pre-show, so I didn't actually know, but I had a feeling. And this is good that you asked me because I was actually thinking about this today, and my answer is the most cowardly one. Why not both? But seriously, I think if I had to pick one, I might just go Love just because of how desperately the Heat could use somebody who could shoot the ball consistently, along with the size, because I think he's going to be more useful to them ultimately as a stretch five than as somebody who plays next to Bam. But the thing is, I would feel better about him next to Bam than I would with Serge. So although Serge has shown off the ability to be a stretch big in the past, it's, the majority of it has been kind of in the mid-range. And I feel like, he's shown a little bit of a three here and there, but I don't know. I think the Ibaka thing might be on the downswing. I don't know. I feel like if you could get him in shape, he might be able to show you a little something still as a rim protector. But as far as being able to play next to Bam, I think Love gives you that extra function. So that's probably what would be the tiebreaker for me. I just think, and also, he just hasn't been used much since last season. So some fresh legs there. And of course, like I said, the shooting. I just think, honestly, I would pick up both. Like, I think they could use the front court depth and just try to see which one you like best, not necessarily play them next to each other or anything like that, but try to see what works there, and you kind of have different options, because right now there is no front court depth. So picking up two vets who have done it on the highest levels before, even if they're tailing off a bit, I think it would be cool. But I would pick Love.
Well, Greg,
Love was a Sixth Man of the Year candidate last season, so I just think he's closer.
Yeah, he's probably got more left. And plus, well, I don't want to bring up a sore subject, but there's been some questioning Serge's age, who played with him, although he's always
that's such bullshit.
He's always challenged that. Who was it who did it? Was it
Kendrick Perkins?
Oh yeah, exactly. Okay, so but here's the thing about it, Greg. They're not going to get both, right? I mean, they're not going to sign.
They could.
Okay, so but
I don't think they're going to.
But who do they like better, though? They like Love better, right?
Yeah, because of need. I think that's what breaks the tie here. There's a world where Russell Westbrook spearheading the bench scoring that they so sorely lacked this year, and Kevin Love kind of being that stretch big that can rebound and do some of those things. There's a world where if you added those two, like, I can talk myself into them being somewhat contributors to this team and helping in ways. But I just think there's going to be really a lot of competition for services. And so I'm expecting it to go more towards Kevin Love, and that'll be a good addition. I think that he'll be welcome here. He'll come off the bench, but play a ton.
But there's financial ramifications here too. Like, he can offer Love more money, but only if they offer him all of it, right?
This is the thing. Like, they essentially, because they're almost 5 million, 4 million and change away from the luxury tax, they can use their biannual exception money that's left over to offer it to one of those guys. They could, I guess, split some of that money between the two, but then like the vet minimum at these guys' years of service is like basically at that amount anyway. So to really get a guy, if this comes down to financial stuff, then you're getting only one of the two. And I would imagine at that point you could pick which one you'd want, because you can outbid anybody. But I just feel like Kevin Love is the guy that positionally works better at this moment.
All right, and let's talk about the other part of this, which is the Westbrook Love angle, which is that these guys have a relationship, and I just wonder if the relationship is strong enough that it could sway one of them to come with the other. Greg, before I get back to Alex here to close, I mean, do you think there's any possibility of that? Hey, guys, come finish out your careers or rebuild your value here in Miami together, just like UCLA.
I would love to tell that kind of story. And maybe that is the angle that Riley will pitch. Although I don't believe that this is a pitch process, frankly. I don't know that they're connected in that way. And I mean, that sounds like a great story. I'm in for it. I think that that's the kind of tie-ins and the kind of chemistry that rekindles itself if they both come, that like can be the connective tissue of that perfect circumstance I described earlier of them being contributors. But ultimately, I think someone will outbid for one of the two and they'll go elsewhere. Alex is mentioning in the chat, Brian Goins said that the Suns can offer up to $5 million. So they may have some exception money stored away if they want to go into the tax. There's probably other teams as well. So I think that it's safer to bet on one of the two, not both.
Well, there is precedent to bring in this kind of multiple bigs thing that Alex is talking about and see who hits. The Nets did it. The Nets did it with Millsap, Aldridge, and Blake Griffin. And I think they basically recognized Millsap couldn't play anymore. Blake gave them a little something, and Aldridge, as we know, didn't really commit, right? So I mean, it's, you try this with these name guys and you see if it still flies, you see what they still have in the tank. My overall thought is this, okay? It would make them more interesting. That's kind of where I come down on this.
True.
Because this thing has gotten stale. We can't argue against that. We have Heat fans who are apologizing to me on Twitter that they're not listening to podcasts, and it's not because we've gotten worse, although we probably have. It's just that they just know where this team is going. It's a borderline first round winner. Certainly out in the second round in 5 games. Like that's basically where they're headed. I don't know that adding Kevin Love changes that equation that much. It feels to me like a lot of guys, again, vets who've gone to teams at the end that were kind of struggling and they get a little injection of life, but they ultimately flame out. But I feel like at least they'd have a puncher's chance in some of these matchups. And I do think that it would inject a little bit of life to the locker room too. And it might return some guys to their rightful roles. And I think that to me is the best part of this potentially. If you could get 20 functional minutes out of Kevin Love, then Caleb Martin can go back to doing what he should be doing. And everything kind of falls in a natural order. And if you have Kevin Love spacing the floor, then you're not as reliant on Strus, and maybe there's some pressure off him. I think, and this is a point Greg made in the chat, it shows fans you're trying. The other name we have not talked about very much here is there was a report today that Goran Dragic could be on the way out in Chicago. And I can tell you from talking to Goran about 3 weeks ago, he would love to be back here. So
yeah. If let's say Russ goes to Chicago for whatever reason, if that ends up coming to fruition, that was the first place I heard, and then it got quiet again. Mm-hmm. If they release Goran coming back to Miami is a layup, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too. But the other part of this is what happens with Goran, what happens with Russ, how much they pursue these players tells you a lot about what they think about what Depot is going to contribute the last couple months of the season. Because if you don't think that Depot can kind of run the bench because he can't stay on the court, then you are more inclined to go get somebody else who can do it. I do want to mention our sponsors again, and I'm going to let Alex close on this. Prize Picks, use the code 5FIVE, betteredge.com. All Pro Construction Builders. We always mention to Water Cleanup of Florida. Reach out to WCUFL.com, WCUFL.com, to Michael Robert and his team. If you got a leak, mold damage, anything like that in their house, they service all 3 counties. They're based in Boca. It's Water Cleanup of Florida, WCUFL.com. If you got the schmutz,
they got the guts.
All right, Alex, I'm going to let you close on this. Ceiling of the – before I do, I got to mention one thing. But I never finished my take. My hot take on the Heat is if Eric Spoelstra had gone to Mario Chalmers in Game 2 of the 2011 Finals instead of Game 6 over Mike Bibby, it wouldn't have mattered what LeBron did. That the Heat would have won that championship and Dwayne Wade would have been the MVP of that series. That's my take from now until the end of time. Mike Bibby turned in the worst final series of any player of all time.
Have you told Eric that? Yeah,
I should have that conversation with Eric. He probably would agree with me on that. I know who agrees with me on that. Mario Chalmers. Alex, ceiling of this team. If they let's say they add Kevin Love and Russell Westbrook. Ceiling of this team.
Have the
guts. Honestly, man, I'm not gonna sit here and lie. I don't think the ceiling changes that much adding those 2 guys. Like I that doesn't mean it's not worth it though. Like, first of all, when you talk about a history with buyout guys, adding 2 guys like that of that talent and caliber, that's kind of unheard of, right? Through the buyout. Like, I just think, even though that they're kind of away from their primes at this point, Kevin Love as a pick and pop threat, I just think that would be an incredible addition to add for free. And the Westbrook thing really only makes sense if you're thinking about it from a perspective of you don't know what you're going to get from Kyle and Depot from a health perspective for the rest of the season. Because I do think when the team is healthy, if everybody's available, I don't really know how you figure out that guard rotation, right? And that's getting past just the conversation of whether or not Russ starts with guys out, right? I just think it seems like it's too many hurdles to cross for a guy who has stuff left in the tank. And I understand why people would want him on the Heat. And look, I never thought I would even consider the thought of bringing Russ onto the Heat. Like, I just think this team with, it being one of the worst shooting teams in the league, him being one of the worst shooting players by volume of all time, it's a tough fit. Not to mention the other stuff with the rotation. They could use somebody who can break down a defender and get to the rim and make stuff happen. But so much of it is theoretical when you really consider the reality of it once you have to watch him every night. And that's kind of what I was saying in our 5 on the Floor chat today, is that Russ is a guy who I think is a lot easier to admire as a fan from afar. Because when you have to watch him every night, you start seeing why teams have been dumping him every season. And I'm really not trying to talk down on him. It's just because, I'm glad that he took that lesser role, quote unquote, with the Lakers, because it made him look better, but he was still taking the shots and making the same questionable decisions that he was just off the bench. So it's fine. I think if you can convince Russ to do that and he's good with it, and there's a possibility that he's phased out of the rotation completely, then yeah, work it in. It just seems like it's one too many hurdles for a team that is right now heading into the All-Star break as a playing team. So I don't think the Russ thing happens, although it would be kind of funny and chaotic, and I think it would be fun for us to cover. So I'm not against it. It's like, what can they lose? I don't think it happens. And so that's why I kind of went earlier to the whole do the Love and Ibaka thing, because it's just kind of like the best of what's left out there. And we know that both of them have different skill sets that could potentially help out the Heat if just one of them hits. But no, I don't think the Russ thing happens, even though it could be fun.
Love and Dragic is what I want to see. That would be fun. You want to energize the Heat fan base, bring Goran back if he gets cut. I'm at the point, do something to entertain me at this stage. Just do something to entertain. I am so disillusioned by that last game.
The two needs are size and entertainment.
Exactly. I'm so disillusioned by that last game before the break. I mean, they let Mikal Bridges in his first week with the Nets go for 45 against them when they hang their head on defense. It's like they all checked into the All-Star break early. And I just any momentum or good feeling I was building about this team, we'll see if it comes back in a week. I want them to be interesting this year.
We need shiny new toys.
No, these are shiny old toys. But we need something to get us through the rest.
We got a great deal at a yard sale. We've been going on Saturday mornings.
Amazing deal.
Whatever you can find on Craigslist. All right, thanks to our sponsors. Check out our Off the Floor feed. That's it. We've talked too much tonight. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Regional Sports Network.
Help your small business thrive and stay connected with the Comcast Business Complete Connectivity Solution. It's the largest, fastest, reliable network. Advanced gig speed Wi-Fi and cyber threat protection. Get started for just $40 a month for 12 months with no annual contract when you add mobile. Plus, ask how to get up to a $750 prepaid card. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Ends 2/21/2023. Restrictions apply. Requires EcoBill and AutoPay. New 100 megabits per second internet and Comcast Business Security Edge customers only. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra. After 12 months, regular rates apply. Gig internet required for gig Wi-Fi.
The Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xE. It's electrified. So you can boogie woogie woogie into the forest. Boogie woogie woogie through the mud. Or boogie woogie woogie to work, where you boogie woogie woogie down the hall to your boss's office to tell him you quit. Sure got the boogie. Then you boogie woogie woogie to the elevator as he boogie woogie woogies after you, begging, please, take me with you. Boogie. The electrified Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xE. Learn more at Jeep.com. Jeep is a registered trademark of FCA US LLC.